If you clicked on this video, you're about to discover something shocking, something that even the world's biggest military analysts miss. And trust me, once you hear what tiny, quiet, peaceful Laos has been doing behind the scenes, you'll understand why experts are subtly whispering that Southeast Asia is entering a new era. This isn't one of those ordinary military stories you keep hearing about though. Russia or China. No more. This is about a small country rewriting the rules and doing the impossible with a budget that the big powers would consider pocket change. And if you think you know Laos, you're about to find out you actually know nothing at all. The story begins with a question no one ever bothered to ask. What happens when a small nation, ignored for decades, decides it's time to guarantee its own security, not with expensive aircraft carriers, not with billion-dollar bombers, but with something completely different, something smarter, something cheaper, something the world's largest military force simply didn't anticipate. Because while the U.S. was busy looking at the Pacific, monitoring China, and competing for global dominance, Laos quietly built something in the shadows that forced analysts to rethink everything they believed about military power. And the craziest part, Laos didn't even intend to scare anybody. They just wanted a weapon that would make sure no one ever dared to underestimate them again. Imagine this. A weapon so cost-effective that even lower-budget countries could adopt it. A weapon so unpredictable that traditional defense systems couldn't respond in time. A weapon that doesn't rely on massive infrastructure, decades of training, or mountains of funding. Instead, it relies on strategy, innovation, and one sharp idea. That idea was born in a research lab hidden deep within Laos, built by a small team of engineers who were tired of the idea that only superpowers deserve cutting-edge technology. They didn't build this weapon to start conflicts, they built it to establish balance. And when you hear how it works, you'll realize why military analysts are calling it the 2025 wildcat. But before we get to the weapon itself, you need to understand how unlikely this breakthrough was. Laos is surrounded by giants: China to the north, Vietnam to the east, Thailand to the west. Historically, it stayed neutral, quiet, and almost invisible on the global stage. But in a world where technology evolves overnight, invisibility is both a blessing and a curse. Laos knew that if it didn't adapt, it would always remain dependent on bigger nations for protection. So it did something no one expected. It invested heavily not in tanks or jets but in innovation hubs, digital warfare labs, AI-driven defense simulations, and small-scale but high-impact production facilities. This quiet build-up was so subtle that even regional intelligence agencies dismissed it as routine modernization. But it wasn't routine, not even close. Now, let's dive into the moment everything changed. In early 2025, Laos conducted a private demonstration of a new system for a handful of invited observers. None of the observers were from the U.S., which is why Washington was caught off guard. The weapon didn't roar like a jet engine. It didn't shake the ground like a missile launch. It didn't glow or spark or thunder. Instead, it operated in complete silence. At first, the observers thought the system had malfunctioned, but seconds later, 3 separate targets, each equipped with modern countermeasures, were neutralized with a precision that left everyone in the room speechless. No more physical damage, no more explosion, no more debris, just instant shutdown. That was the moment Laos revealed its real focus. Disruption over destruction. This wasn't a kinetic weapon. It was a hybrid electronic cyber strike system, capable of disabling drones, communications, radar networks, and even small aircraft without firing a single traditional projectile. In other words, Laos created a weapon that doesn't need to destroy you to defeat you. It just makes you blind, deaf, and unable to act. And here is the insane part. It runs on a fraction of the energy required by modern systems, making it portable, scalable, and almost impossible to detect before it activates. Why is this dangerous? Because modern warfare depends on information, sensors, connectivity, and speed. Remove any of those, and your billion-dollar hardware becomes useless metal. And that's exactly what Laos demonstrated. While other countries spent hundreds of millions on anti-air systems, Laos built a weapon that can disable multiple platforms at once quietly, instantly, and cheaply. So how did the U.S. miss it? That's what shocked analysts. American intelligence agencies weren't monitoring Laos closely because Laos was never considered a military hotspot, and because Laos conducted all its testing within controlled zones, never near borders, never near foreign sensors. The U.S. had no more clue how far along the development had progressed. This is why, when the demonstration results leaked, Washington was caught completely off guard. A small country they had never seen as a technological competitor had just revealed a disruptive weapon that could challenge drone fleets, disrupt electronic warfare systems, and confuse high-tech aircraft. But the real beauty of Laos' weapon isn't just what it disables, it is how it forces a shift in regional strategy. When Laos announced even limited deployment, neighboring countries took notice. Vietnam quickly recalibrated its border surveillance. Thailand requested urgent intelligence briefings. Even China, which normally pays little attention to Laos' defense upgrades, quietly increased observation from satellite assets. Suddenly, the country everyone overlooked had everyone watching. Now let's talk about the human side of the story, because that's where the real inspiration lies. Laos didn't hire foreign contractors to design the system. They didn't depend on foreign blueprints or imported military architects. This weapon was designed by young Laotian engineers in their 20s and early 30s. People who grew up with minimal opportunities, who long believed their birthplace limited their potential. But when the government launched that technical innovation program in 2021, everything changed. Students were given resources, labs were opened, scholarships provided, A&D competitions created. And out of that environment came a brilliant team that would eventually design the weapon we're talking about today. This is why the story matters. It's not just about military power. It's about rewriting the narrative of what small nations can achieve when they believe in innovation. It's about proving that intelligence, creativity, and courage can outperform massive budgets. And it is about showing the world that military dominance is no longer determined solely by size, it is determined by strategy. But we need to talk about the global impact too. When news of Laos' breakthrough reached international defense circles, reactions were mixed. Some saw it as a threat to existing power structures. Others saw it as the future of warfare. But everyone agreed on one thing. The weapon works. And because it works, it changes everything. The US now faces a scenario where even small nations can counter high-tech assets without needing expensive platforms of their own. This means American doctrine must evolve. It means future conflicts won't be about who has the most firepower, but who has the smartest technology. And Laos' tiny, quiet Laos just proved the point to the world. Now imagine this. US surveillance drone operating near Southeast Asia suddenly loses connection. Not because of a glitch, not because of weather, but because an invisible pulse erased its communication link. A multi-million-dollar aircraft forced to retreat because its radar displays nothing but static. A warship's drone swarm fails to launch because its interface freezes. This is the kind of scenario Washington must now prepare for. Indeed, that's why analysts say Laos pulled off something incredibly rare, strategic surprise. But let me make something clear. Laos didn't build the system to challenge the US. It built it to avoid being overshadowed, intimidated, or manipulated by larger neighbors. It built it to protect its sovereignty in a world where small nations often get ignored. And in doing so, Laos unintentionally created a weapon powerful enough to shock the world's strongest military. And this is where the story becomes legendary. Because when a small country makes the world's biggest country rethink its strategy, you know something massive just happened. You know history just shifted. So if you're watching the slide now, understand one thing. This isn't just another military video. It's a moment where we witness how intelligence beats intimidation, how strategy beats size, and how innovation beats money. Laos just proved that no more country is too small to change the global conversation. And if you want more stories like the stories the mainstream media ignores, stories that reveal the hidden side of global power, stories that go deeper than headlines, then you need to subscribe right now. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Because we uncover the truths others overlook. And we bring you the breakthroughs before the world catches up. And trust me, the next story we're working on is even bigger. This was the unbelievable rise of a hidden powerhouse. And the world is still trying to understand how they missed it. Laos 2025 Secret Weapon No. S. Never saw coming.